Hello and welcome to the BloodStream podcast, a show serving the greater bleeding disorders community, brought to you by Believe Limited and BloodStream Media and made possible thanks to our presenting sponsor, Takeda. I'm your patient advocate and host, Patrick James Lynch.
And I'm your healthcare advocate, nonprofit nerd, and your other host, Amy Board, reminding you to please speak with a healthcare professional before making any treatment decisions.
On today's show, we have Tim Stowers, a fellow blood brother with severe hemophilia A, a fellow man at the age of 40, this wonderful time of life that we're approaching. But also an English channel swimmer, not an English channel swimmer, but a channel swimmer.
Just a channel swimmer.
He swims channels.
Miles and miles of them.
I wanted to make a bad joke about couch surfing, like with a remote control and channels, and how one I can do.
One you can do.
One Tim Stowers can do.
Right.
And he's going to talk to us about that a little bit later on in the podcast. We also have some updates from Star Therapeutics. We had Jess Swan and Dr. Benjamin Kim on the pod not too long ago. Well, there's some updates from Star Therapeutics that we're going to bring to you. We've got all of that and more on today's episode. Welcome to BloodStream.
Listeners, as always, thank you for joining us today in our brand new podcast studio.
Not too bad. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can check it out. New studio, same us.
Same us. We've been talking about it a lot that we have this new studio. It's still like in the process of getting built out and things, but it's gorgeous and it's wonderful and we're psyched.
Apparently we can change the colors of these lights.
Yes, we can mood light it.
So we might get kind of weird in here at some point. We'll see.
Yeah, like when Wicked comes out, we'll be green.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Wicked. Wow, right on cue.
Oh my God.
Did Keith with the All-Star
podcast
move.
Producer Keith is so really psyched with himself.
This is our Wicked look. Now, if you're listening only, you're missing out.
Taylor Swift's album is out, so orange.
Orange?
Oh,
ooh,
it's kind of red.
Well, she has a red album also.
She does have a red. Oh,
it fits.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway,
so we're in the new studio.
If you like this, if you like the lights, please subscribe to the BloodStream podcast, and you can follow us on social media, all the things.
I also want to remind you, dear listeners, that the BloodStream podcast is indeed made possible thanks to our presenting sponsor, Takeda. That's right, Takeda. Takeda has got this website, bleedingdisorders.com, where you can learn all about Takeda's resources for and commitment to the bleeding disorders community. Takeda, Amy Board, believes in a world free of bleeds.
We love.
And they're dedicated more than ever in their efforts to offer a wide range of programs and support to help patients on their treatment journey, wherever on that journey they may be. And you can learn more by simply visiting bleedingdisorders.com. One more time for the folks in the back, bleedingdisorders.com. And for their founding and ongoing support of the BloodStream podcast, I would just like to say, thanks, Takeda.
Thank you, Takeda.
Amy, I'm so proud of the first thing we got on our list here today. This is a first in BloodStream podcast history. We've been doing this since 2016.
Really?
And for as far as I can remember, I've been, around for most of this. I don't think we've ever had to issue a correction.
You've made it when you have to issue a correction.
I've been waiting for this day.
I know.
This is a milestone moment. We've got a correction to make. We must matter.
What we say matters.
So what's our correction for the day, Amy Board?
Okay, our correction for today. So a couple episodes ago, I don't remember, we had Dr. Radek Kazmarek on, and he actually misquoted some long-term data for our gene therapy for hemophilia A, which is Roctavian, as we know. The podcast was on August 22nd, 2025, and I'll give you the honors of reading the correction statement.
Well, Dr. Radek stated that 80% returned to prophylaxis when in fact it is the inverse, according to the 5-year phase 3 results presented by BioMarin at ISTH 2025 this past summer in DC. The correct 5-year data states that 81.3% of participants remained off continuous prophylaxis, did not return. That's 109 people out of 134 stayed off prophylaxis. So a pretty important stat to make sure to get right.
100%. Absolutely. So thank you for that. Thank you for that correction, and a huge first for us.
A huge first. We're so proud. I'd like to personally thank Dr. Radek Kazmarek for giving us the opportunity to correct what took place here on the BloodStream podcast. Blood brother, I see you. I appreciate you.
We really do.
You did that for us. I know you did. You wanted to give us this opportunity, and I recognize it. I'm not taking it for granted, brother.
We love that guy.
So, Star Therapeutics, we just had Jess Swan and Dr. Benjamin Kim in an interview here not too long ago. But they've made some news, and we wanted to share a little bit about that news, given that they were just here on the podcast. And it's great news for the von Willebrand disease community in particular.
It really is.
First off, September 30th, a press release announced that they closed round Series D financing of over $125 million. And what that means is that there is confidence in the direction that Star Therapeutics is headed. So when I see something like that as a patient, it gives me some confidence that, okay, investors believe in them, people with money believe in them, they like what they're seeing out of the science. This is encouraging. But there's two more specific to the patient community pieces of news or updates that I wanted to provide you with. The first, and we touched on this briefly in the interview, but their pivotal phase 3 study, VGA039, has initiated. It's the first subcutaneous therapy dosed once monthly that has the potential to address all types of von Willebrand disease and all types of bleeds.
Huge.
Of note, it's also received fast track and orphan drug designation from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. The additional investment announced on the 30th supports Star's continued global clinical expansion as they advance this into this phase 3 trial. Trial eligibility. Phase 3 trial in VWD patients is currently recruiting people with VWD aged 12 to 75. 12 to 75, and interested participants can explore preliminary eligibility by following a link that we will have in the program notes. So if you or a loved one have von Willebrand disease and are between the ages of 12 and 75, you might want to check out STAR's phase 3 pivotal study. Similarly, they are also working to create the first validated VWD quality of life patient-reported outcome tool. So along their journey, their commitment to better understand and bring awareness to the symptoms and disease burden of people living with VWD is unwavering. And to amplify these efforts, STARS announced they're partnering with the University of Rochester to develop and validate the first patient-reported outcome questionnaire to assess health, symptoms, and disease burden of von Willebrand disease. We welcome all people with VWD 18 years of age and older. So for this tool, 18 and older, for the clinical trial eligibility between the ages of 12 and 75. 18 and older, if you are interested in and living in the United States, if you would like to share your lived experience to be part of this historic effort, you can email a member of the University of Rochester team. We'll put the email address in the program notes. Take a look at them there. Please email that individual if you're interested in learning more. We are giving a lot of attention to Star Therapeutics right now, and I'm cognizant of that. The von Willebrand disease community is the largest community within the bleeding disorders community, and they have been overlooked for a very long time. So in my estimation, and Amy, I hope you agree, as I didn't run all of this by you necessarily, but it is very well worth our time here on BloodStream to shine a light on the movers and shakers in the von Willebrand disease community.
I've said it forever. I've said it when I first started. I remember I did an Ask the Expert interview with a physician way back when I started, so 2019. And it was about new therapies. And, there was so much on the horizon for hemophilia A and B.
I remember this.
And I really stuck it to them when it came to von Willebrand's disease and just thought that maybe I was ignorant, and there just wasn't anything. And it was kind of bleak. I remember being like, we have like these treatments that, have been around for a while. There's some that are only for severe, von Willebrand's type 3, which for those patients has been really, really, really crucial.
Of course.
But this is just so exciting. Yeah.
So again, if you are a person living with VWD, you got a loved one, check out the program notes for more information about the clinical trials and for more information about this first patient-reported outcomes tool that STAR is supporting. All right, let's move on to our interview for today. Tim Stowers, what an inspiration. So I've known of Tim as a guy about the same age who's also got severe hemophilia A, who lives here in California. He's the brother of a friend of ours as well. And I heard a little bit about this. I got to admit, I didn't know anything about channel swimming.
Yeah.
I actually have a quick story.
Oh, go. Time him, everybody. Time him.
We did a panel with Chris Bombardier 6 or 7 years ago, and it was before the documentary. And I was so inspired by what he was doing and felt so like blah about my own active or lack thereof life that impulsively I and Natalie signed up for an ocean swim, a 1 mile ocean swim. We did no training. It was in Long Beach, a little bit south of where we are in Los Angeles. So on the day, it's like a 7:30 in the morning start. So we drove down the night before. We went down to the beach. We stared at the ocean and said, all right, we're supposed to swim horizontally in this tomorrow. Cool. We went up to our hotel room. We woke up the next morning. We had breakfast. We went over to the sign-in area where you're supposed to check in. And we said, this seems awful. And we went home. That's that story. That's that whole story.
It's the most Patrick and Natalie story ever. Anybody else who had been on a panel with Chris Bombardier and was like, I should probably do some stuff, would have gone for a run the next morning or something. Or would have gotten on a bike or something like that. No.
We signed up for a competitive swim in a format we weren't active in.
No training.
No training, no experience. And then we just went on Reddit and just read people kick you in the face the whole time. You got to swim near all these other people. Maybe there's a shark. And we were like, you know what? This was a nice hotel to come stay at for a night. Let's leave. Didn't even pick up our swag bag. That was a mile and we couldn't do it. But I just want to put in perspective, channel swims, and Tim's going to get into this, are particularly challenging.
Yeah.
And Tim's, he'll tell you about it, was even unexpectedly long. Fewer people have solo swum the English Channel, which is probably the most famous quote-unquote channel and for channel swimmers. Fewer people have swum that than have stood on Everest's summit. There have been 7,270-ish people who have been to the summit of Everest, over 12,800 summits by those 7,200 people. Only 2,700 have completed a solo English Channel crossing.
Crazy.
So it is something else to be a channel swimmer. Well, Tim just completed this remarkable swim. He's here to tell us all about it. And that's coming up right now. All right, I am joined now by fellow blood brother with severe heme, Tim Stowers. And I have to do a little reading here, Tim, before I give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. It's from a post on Facebook, August 9th, about a month ago from the time we're recording this. And it reads as follows. When I was young and on competitive swim team, I wondered if someone could swim to and from the islands off the coast where I grew up. Found out it had been done before, but at the time I could not even comprehend the distance. Fast forward 30 years, I tried to answer the question for myself. Today I swam from Anacapa Island, Channel Island National Park, to shore, Silver Strand Beach, in 8 hours and 3 minutes. It is 12.4 miles by the straightest line, but the swim took closer to 13.1. Conditions were challenging and it took more than expected to pull it off. Yes, I swam it in all red for hemophilia awareness. So Tim, for starters, congratulations on an extraordinary accomplishment. You must be proud.
Yeah, totally. It was quite the sense of accomplishment when I finished that swim.
I mean, I was just looking up that in an Ironman triathlon, something that somebody like me would consider amongst the, peak of athletic pursuits, the swim portion is a 2.4 mile swim. You swam 13 miles and through what looks like some pretty choppy conditions. I mean, that's just insane, man.
Yeah, it's hard to compare it to many other things. And when you talk about triathlons, it's like the swimming is a good part of it, but this is something else completely.
How did you go about training for this? Because it's clear it was on your mind for a long time since childhood, but there must have been a moment where you decided, okay, I'm going to move forward with actually trying this. And then what did training look like?
Training for it, I recently went back to a master swim team. So that's when you're over 18, you can still compete, but it's called masters here in the US. And the master swim team that I ended up joining actually had a number of channel swimmers on it already, which is actually kind of a rare thing. And I just kind of got back into swimming and noticed that there was this smaller group of people in the deep end kind of doing something different. And then in talking to them, I was like, I thought about some of my other previous sports experience, and I started thinking about it really quick. And I was like, actually, I think I can do this. I think with their help, I could actually answer this question that I had so long ago.
And when was that relative to completing the swim about a month ago?
So this is the really crazy part about this whole thing is I only joined the Masters team last December. And then I really only decided that I was going to do this in like February. So, I mean, effectively it was couch to channel in 8 or 9 months.
Couch to channel. I like that. What makes a channel swim unique for people like me who are unfamiliar? What defines or characterizes a channel swim?
A channel swim is typically from an island to another island, or the mainland to an island, or the island back to the mainland. So there are other marathon swims. So marathon swims are defined as 6 miles or about 10 kilometers. And they're said to be equal to a running marathon. And so a channel swim could be 6 miles. But the one that I did was 12.4 by the straightest line. But that ends up turning into an ultra marathon just because it's double.
Wow. How did your body feel at the end of it?
You know, at the end of it, my body felt pretty good. The main muscles that you use for swimming, like they were okay. What was a little bit more sore were all the little stabilizer muscles and all the little muscles that like you don't think you're using, but they're being used the whole time too.
What did you have to do to account for your hemophilia? Any changes to your treatment plan, conversations with doctors? Tell me a little bit about that part of it all.
No, so for the hemophilia aspect of it, my hemophilia is pretty well controlled already. And so I did talk with my hematologist prior and leading into it. And all they really suggested that I do was make sure that I infused like at the last possible second and go for it.
Wow, that's incredible. Who else? I saw in some of the photos and videos, there was like a rowboat with people who seem to be chaperoning the swim. How did that work? You're not just out there by yourself swimming in the middle of the channel. You've got some people out there with you supporting you?
Right. Yeah. So the logistics of a channel swim is kind of interesting too, right? Because in reality, you probably can't actually do it by yourself. I mean, there was definitely a point out there where like I couldn't see the island anymore and I can't see the land yet. And so you're relying on the escort boat to really kind of get you across. So the escort boat takes you to your start point, and then you get out, or they get the kayaker in the water, and then you get out, and then you either, depending on how the start goes. So on Anacapa, there is no beach. It's just a rock in the middle of the island or in the middle of the ocean. And you have to swim up to it and you have to touch the rock face. And then when you let go, that's when the time starts. And so during the swim, I'm swimming closer to the kayak because it's sometimes it can get dangerous kind of swimming towards the boat. So the boat's kind of charting the course, and the kayak is following the boat, and I'm following the kayak.
Quite a little train out there in the water. Was there any point during the 8 hours where physically you felt something going on and wondered, am I going to have to stop or adjust? Or did you have any moments of this, I may not be able to complete this today?
Not so much physically. I would say mentally. Just I had trained up to it, and physically, I felt good the entire time. But there are definitely some unique challenges with actually crossing the channel that, like I mentioned, like when you can't see the island or the mainland, and your frame of reference is gone, your sense of time is elastic, and you're like, I don't know where I am. I don't have a good like gauge to like how far I've gone. This seems to be taking longer than I expected just because it was so rough that day. It that I'd say the mental aspect of it was much harder than the physical aspect.
That makes sense. How do you deal with things like dehydration? I know if you're a marathon runner, you're running a marathon, there's people handing out water and electrolyte tablets and things along the way. Do you have anything like that with the escort boat, or are you just on your own?
Yeah, so on the escort boat, you have your official observer. So they are documenting the swim. So they're writing down this was the currents, this was the swell, temperature, wind, all these things, and then they're recording things. But then also your own personal crew, they're managing your feeds, and your feeds they can be whole food or liquid like sport drink, and so you give them the plan ahead of time because the observer also kind of notes um, how much you're drinking or eating. And so I had set every 30 minutes to give me this water bottle filled to a specific amount of my like sport drink, which was calories and carbohydrates and electrolytes. And so, and then that would come from the kayak. And so I basically had this bottle tied to a string, and then they would throw it out of the kayak, and I would swim to it, and I would just otter on my back for a little bit, drink it, and then kind of close it up when I finished it, and then keep swimming. But during that time, I could not touch the kayak in a supportive way, or if there was no kayak and there's just the boat, you can't touch the boat in a supportive way. That's part of the unassisted swim classification.
That makes good sense, of course. What was the process of dialing in your sport drink, your combination? Like, how did you go about selecting what exactly you want to have during that 8 hour stretch?
So there, in my one of my previous sports endeavors with cycling, I really kind of dialed in on a product that had a lot of electrolytes and had a lot of carbohydrates that was pretty good, and I really liked it. And they had another version of it that I never tried up until this point that had a higher carbohydrate amount. And so I actually switched to that one for this, and that worked out a little better. Just because on bikes it was easy. It's easier to like bring like a Cliff Bar or like some other snack. And in the water, it was just like I want to just try to get it all in one shot. And this had a little bit more carbs, and so that's what I ended up going with.
Speaking of carbs, what was the first meal that you ate when you got onto land? Because I imagine you must have been famished.
Oh man, that was the weird part about it. At the end of it, I was not very hungry for a couple of hours. I wasn't thinking about eating, but when it came around to it, I had quite a bit of pizza actually.
My man. All right. I appreciate hearing that. You decided to wear all red to, use this in part to raise awareness for hemophilia. Why was that piece important to you?
I feel like that piece was important to me because growing up, they always told us that swimming was the best thing for hemophiliacs to do. And coming into this, I was looking to find if anybody had ever done something like this before. And I couldn't find a solid answer. I've seen guys that have done the Ironman, right? But I just hadn't found anybody to do a marathon swim, an ultra marathon swim, or a channel swim. So, I mean, if somebody knows the name, let me know. But I just decided to wear all red because, I want other hemophiliacs to know that, like you too can do things like this.
For sure. That's cool. And now there's definitely a name on the list too for anybody who looks hereafter. A couple more questions for you, Tim, before I let you go. There's a great photo of you on the beach. I think you referenced it as one of your favorites that features your wife and your daughter there with you. What was the moment like sharing it with your family when you finally got to the beach?
Um, so that one was interesting. Man. So to finish, you have to clear the water up to the dry sand. You turn around and you raise your hands, and at that point they like blast a little air horn from the boat saying that your swim is done. But if anybody touches you up to that point, it's a disqualification. So it's like my kids are like, can we touch him yet? Can we touch him? Can we touch him? And then they hear the air horn and then they like rush me. And it's just more floods of emotions. And then my wife like walks over to me and then I see her and she's like, she, she gives me that look. And I'm just like, I survived.
What a special moment. Is there something that you're now thinking about doing next, whether it's some kind of marathon swim or some other kind of physical challenge of sorts, or are you good for a moment?
um, Yeah, I think I really only have one of these big swims in me a year. And that seems to kind of track with the rest of the community that does this kind of thing. I think next year, if I do something, it'll most likely be the Catalina channel, and that's Catalina Island here in Southern California to the mainland, and the landing point somewhere around San Pedro. And so that one is about 20 miles, and
Whew.
um, distance wise, it's similar to like English Channel in distance, but it doesn't quite swim the same way as the English Channel, from what I understand.
Okay, so 13 wasn't enough for you. You're going to go for 20 next year?
Right? Which is absolutely wild because that one you actually start at like 10 p.m. at night and you swim through the night.
That sounds cool. Scary. Is there anything that, we have a fair amount of patients and caregivers that listen to this podcast, and I think who take inspiration from stories like yours. Is there any particular final message that you'd like to share with patients and caregivers who are listening?
I'd say that, just realize every day is amazing, right? Being able to get up, to do anything, to take a walk, go to the store, be with your family is amazing. It doesn't necessarily have to be something like what I did, right? And so I think when you hear stories like mine, that you're like, wow, I can't even imagine swimming that far. They're inspiring, but realize that, you also have an amazing inspirational tale just being here.
Wow, that's a great message. Well, let's leave it there, Tim. And if you would, I'd love to keep open a line of communication, have you back on next year as you're gearing up for a freaking 20-mile swim, which, okay, I thought 13 was extraordinary. I guess we'll talk next year and see where things net out. But congratulations again. Truly an amazing accomplishment, and you have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks again to Tim Stowers for joining the program today, educating us on channel swims, and we'll see if he's going to swim, if he's going to do the Catalina swim next year. We're going to have to follow it here on BloodStream.
Oh my gosh, yes.
More to come from Tim, hopefully. And thanks as always to our presenting sponsor, Takeda, of course, bleedingdisorders.com to learn more. We could not produce this show without you, and for that, we are extremely grateful. Thank you, Takeda. Bordeaux, next episode comes out October 17th. What can the listeners expect to hear then?
Well, we've got a special episode. I actually am live from BDC.
Oh.
I was live on the fly. I was a little roving reporter asking people about gene therapy. And we have a really cool episode that's sponsored by CSL Behring, specifically about joint health and gene therapy, which is a really interesting topic. But we found some ringers. We actually have Dr. Radek. He's going to talk to me about gene therapy. And we also
hopefully correctly.
I know. Well, I actually said that he was a treater of patients, and he's not. And he had to stop me mid-interview, and he's like, "That's not true." And I was like, "Okay, redo." So anyway, we're
figuring it out.
We're doing great.
We're getting there.
We're factual here.
That's right. Sooner or later, we bring you the truth.
Sooner or later, we are factual on here.
Well, with that is all for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the BloodStream podcast wherever you listen to have the next episode delivered to you the moment it goes live.
And as always, email us at mailbag@bloodstreammedia.com to inquire about our casting opportunities. And as always, you can find us on social media. We are here, Believe Limited, BloodStream Media, Patrick, me. We're all over the place.
Dismissed Film, The Science Fair, Stop the Bleeding. Just message one of the platforms. We'll make sure to get it.
We got you. We got you.
I am your host, Patrick James Lynch.
And I am your other host, Amy Board.
And until next time, take self-care of yourself. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.